Hello, this is Dennis Coskren again, Dr. Dennis Coskren, on a little story on geology or minerals. On this particular time, I want to talk about how I managed to discover 3 brand new minerals with no special equipment at all. It turns out that an awful lot of the new minerals that are being discovered, and there's an average of about 2 every month, so this isn't extra special, unusual. Most of it's done by amateurs, people who don't have access to $15 million worth of equipment or special training. They are amateurs in the sense that they love minerals. And in this particular case, while I was a graduate student in Kentucky, I read about a mineral deposit in North Carolina in a book that was about 40 years old, and it described large masses of a rare mineral under an overhanging cliff in Great Smoky Mountain National Park. I wondered if that stuff is still there. And I decided I would ride down, so over a weekend, I drove down to Great Smoky Mountains, hiked up a beautiful trail up the mountain, and I found an overhanging cliff, and that is the site. And I found the mineral that they were talking about, which is apjonite, a very rare mineral, and there were large masses of it. However, inside those masses, I broke some pieces open and there was some green stain. It could be just algae growing inside the rock. That is possible. But anyway, I took it back home and looked at it under binocular microscope. Cheap microscope, but it did the job because I could see what it was little tiny crystals. Sharp, clear, gemmy, yellow-green crystals. What are they? That was the sneaky part. For that, I needed equipment. So I happened to have university equipment available to me, and I got what you might call a fingerprint on the mineral. And it turned out to be Slavicite, which you never heard of, which most geologists have never heard of. At the time, it was only known for half a dozen places in the world, none of them in North America. And I wondered, if I can go up there and spend 15 minutes poking around with a rock hammer and come up with something that's never been found on the continent before, what else is here? Hasn't anybody ever looked at this place? The answer was that the last time somebody had looked at it and written about it was 1880. And so I decided, I'm going to come back and make it my own project, nothing to do with my academic work, just for fun. I'm going to try to identify all the minerals at this site and then write a paper on it. So I went back with a knapsack, brought back about 20 pounds of material, and spent the next 10 years looking at it under the microscope, breaking little pieces off and setting aside anything that was different. One of the things I found was little pale pink flat crystals that I could match up to some extent with an iron sulfate. And I said, maybe it's quenstedtite. It fits, not quite right, but we'll check. A few years later, I ran into somebody who happened to have at his disposal an electron microscope. I didn't happen to have one in my basement. An electron microscope takes pictures of very tiny things, but more for my purpose, it also gives you a quick and dirty chemical analysis. My iron sulfate had no iron in it. Instead, it was a cerium sulfate. The only things I could detect in it were the rare earth elements, cerium being at the top, and sulfur. Oh, that's nice. There isn't any such mineral known. I got a new mineral. So I found someone who was interested in doing the work on that, and it turned out it wasn't a cerium sulfate, it was a cerium sulfate oxalate. To make the story short, like very quickly, a couple of weeks later he called up and asked permission to name it after me. And so I now have coskrenite as a mineral. I got 2 more new minerals after that. One of them is right here, but it's too small to see, so I won't try to show it to you. It's levinsonite. But that's just an example of how someone who doesn't have a particular amount of equipment available and no special knowledge in this, if they're a fanatic about minerals, they can go out and find something new, brand new.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.